Oh, this is a new Wang video. What the fuck? All the other Wang videos we've seen have been like 3 years old. I didn't check this one out.
In April of 2005, a woman was walking her dog near Clocanog Forest in Wales. As the walk went on, the woman realized that she was lost. That feeling of panic would only get worse. The dog did what dogs often do, and it found a bone. But this bone belonged to a human skeleton handcuffed to a tree. That September, BBC reported that these skeletal remains had been identified as Richard Sumner, a 47-year-old painter who worked as a scenic artist for the Royal Shakespeare Company. And hearing about the case, it was revealed that Richard, who had been dealing with schizophrenia, had most likely taken his own life. However, the scene revealed signs of a struggle, that Richard had tried and failed to escape with the key just out of his reach. Although this could indicate foul play, his sister revealed during the hearing that he was dealing with severe depression and had made attempts in the past, including this exact same method. That time, however, he was able to free himself. His sister told the court his idea was to kill himself, but he couldn't do it because he couldn't upset everybody, including the people who would find his body. She theorized that he did this inside the forest so that nobody would find him, and like
dark, but I understand what he's doing. Like, you know, you're so depressed that you don't even want to kill yourself because you know that if you kill yourself, then you're going to cause problems for other people in your life and other people who might not even just in your life, but just random people. You just don't want to cause you're so depressed, you just don't want to cause any problems for anyone, and even not being around is going to cause a problem.
Likely hoping to hear that he didn't suffer much, she asked how long it would take to die from such a thing. The pathologist responded, he could have been there for a few days. If you handcuffed yourself to a tree, you would die fairly quickly, but maybe not as quickly as you would like. It was also suggested that he may have taken some kind of drug cocktail. This may have eased his pain, but it could have also contributed to his inability to free himself. I imagine that in that state of decomposition, it would be impossible for him to test and be able to know. But in any case, it was clear that, as is often reported in these kinds of cases, he regretted it as soon as everything was set into motion. It's a phenomenon that's often reported by people who survive attempts to take their own lives. So while I know that depression and various mental issues can kind of put you in a state of mind that's not entirely rational, understand that if you attempt something like this, there's a good chance you'll regret it after it's already too late. Like many artists, his art also took on a life of its own after his passing. Although he worked as a scenic artist for a living, he also made several of his own paintings. When looking for examples of his work, for some reason I found a lot of stuff that was misattributed to him, or pieces belonging to another artist with the same name. But I did come across an article in the Liverpool Echo about a 2014 exhibition and charity auction held by his family, with proceeds going to a local charity named Jospice. Although unfortunately there appears to be literally nothing of his work online, these are some of the comments from guests. Helen Nelson, a historian who's particularly moved by his story. He was a fabulous scenic designer and fantastic painter in some aspects, but in others, he was obviously so disturbed by his schizophrenic episodes that it was reflected in his paintings. It's impossible to separate him from his art. And Sammy Gibson, who helped organize the event. I'm very impressed. This guy was a brilliant artist, and you only have to look at Van Gogh for an example. He never sold a painting until after he died.
There are so many artists that never make any money until long after they pass. Like, that's kind of just the way of the artist. Like, there are people that manage to commercialize their art, and more now you have the internet and, you know, all of this stuff, but so many talented creators never see a cent of that.
Anyway, I feel like it's been a while since I made one of these, but welcome to a new episode of 1001 Ways to Die. Alright, so this isn't a sponsored ad. This is just something I'm pretty excited.
What the fuck are you wearing, man? What? Okay, you know what? This gives a break from the darkness. What the fuck is this outfit?
About that I wanted to draw you guys' attention to. So a few months ago, I got a message from my dude Evan Husney, one of the producers of Dark Side of the Ring, and he told me that my video on Necro Butcher versus Samoa Joe, which is one of my favorite videos they ever made, inspired them to do an episode of the show. And I was hyped because Dark Side of the Ring is one of the only shows I actually watch anymore. So that episode premieres tonight, that being July 21st. at 9 p.m. on Vice TV, and you can also watch it on the Vice TV website, and a bunch of other streaming services. I usually watch the show on YouTube, but it winds up here a little bit later. I got to see the episode already, and if you like my videos, this will probably be your favorite episode of the series. But anyway, watch Dark Side of the Ring tonight. Although we typically think of an overdose in the context of drugs, it's also true that a lot of otherwise innocuous substances can be harmful or even fatal when taken in excess. A situation that you might have thought of when I said that was when in 2007, a radio station held a contest called Hold Your Wee for a Wee. Competitors
Oh, I do know this one.
had to drink a bottle of water of increasing size every 15 minutes without going to the bathroom, and the last person standing would win a Nintendo Wii. Throughout the event, callers warned of how dangerous this is and how people have actually died from it. And sure enough, following the event...
And a Wii wasn't even... like, how much... Okay, what did a Wii retail for? Nintendo Wii retail price. It launched at 400 Australian, so like, what, 300 American?
The second place finalist, Jennifer Strange, complained of a bad headache. She was later found dead by her mother. The station would ultimately have to pay $16.5 million to her family. Jesus. And the national coverage made the general public aware that you could actually die from drinking too much water, albeit in quantities that you would basically never ever drink under normal circumstances. But lesser known are the dangers of other substances, like say, candy. And I know you're thinking, yeah, no shit, man, candy's bad for you. But I don't mean like, oh, you get a little too much sugar in you and you go cuckoo.
I am Cornholio. Give for my bunghole.
Or, you know, you get diabetes. Cuckoo.
Oh, I've not seen this in a fucking long time.
I am Cornholio. I need TV for my bunghole.
Or, you know, you get diabetes. No, this goes much deeper than that. The New England Journal of Medicine reported on a case that occurred in 2019. A 54-year-old construction worker from Massachusetts was sitting down for lunch at a fast food restaurant. Suddenly, his body began to shake, and he passed out, and they found that his heart had stopped. They were able to restore his heartbeat and bring him to the hospital within 30 minutes. There, the doctors found that he had a severe potassium deficiency.
Okay. I did hear about a girl recently who, I think she was 21, and she had to have like a heart monitor because she had so much caffeine. Like this was someone who, like, not just like a little bit, but she was drinking like 12, 15, like 20 espressos a day and taking caffeine pills.
And not just in a he needs to eat a banana or drink a Gatorade kind of way. He had multiple failing organs tied to this. But they didn't really have any information to work off of as the man was unresponsive. So they were left to figure out what had happened to him by consulting his medical records and interviewing friends and family. He had no prior history of heart issues, and he also was not sick in any way leading up to the incident. He was 3 years clean from heroin, and since then he had few
Okay, he'd done heroin before. Okay, okay. He wasn't exactly in the healthiest state anyway.
Except for some cigarettes. Although cigarettes will give you heart problems, it's unlikely that they just suddenly do this out of the blue, especially because, as we said, he had no previous heart issues. You know, it's more of a gradual thing. And if he had any issues from his prior drug use, that also would have shown up at some point.
Sure.
However, he did have another vice. Candy. The man loved his candy. Family members noted that he would eat 1 to 2 packages of red fruit-flavored licorice candy a day. But the family also said that 3 weeks prior, he had switched to black licorice. Kudos to the...
Okay, I'm not sure what the difference is there, ingredient-wise.
The doctors for getting this seemingly innocuous information out of his family, because this actually changes everything. As soon as they hear that, they perk up like something out of an episode of House. You see, although red licorice is called licorice, it's not really licorice. It's just licorice in name and appearance. What makes black licorice real licorice is that it's derived from the actual root of the licorice plant. This root contains a substance called glycyrrhizin. Glycyrrhizin is what gives licorice its distinct flavor. It's said to be up to 50 times sweeter than regular sugar, which honestly, it's never tasted that sweet to me.
No.
Like, to me, it feels like a different sensation entirely, which for some is like what makes licorice disgusting.
Whenever I have licorice, it kind of tastes more bitter to me rather than sweet. I do agree. It's like a very different kind of sensation. Bitter is a much closer kind of feeling that I get from it.
but then it's the whole appeal for others. However, in addition to its distinct flavor, glazyrosine can also be dangerous. The FDA has written about the dangers of licorice in the past, sometimes issuing a statement leading up to Halloween, based on findings from previous medical reports.
Eating 2 ounces of black licorice a day. Wait, how much is 2 ounces? 2 ounces to grams. 56 grams. That's not actually that much. I fucking love black licorice. Well, don't eat more than 2 ounces a day if you're over 40 or you'll die.
They say that excessive consumption of products that contain the substance can lead to cardiac arrhythmia, high blood pressure, swelling, and heart failure. That's not to say you should never eat it, but you need to exercise moderation, specifically if you're older. Which is kind of a shame because I feel like licorice is one of those things that you don't really like when you're a kid, but you start to appreciate as you get older. And something that feels oddly prophetic in a report they made 10 years prior, they specifically write, if you're 40 or older, eating 2 ounces of black licorice in a day for at least 2 weeks could land you in the hospital with an irregular heart rhythm or arrhythmia. And here we have a 54-year-old man eating an entire bag or more for 3 weeks. An entire bag, as far as I'm seeing, is between 5 to 7 ounces.
Whoa!
Although the doctors acknowledged that there were other possibilities, they were certain that the licorice was the culprit here. Despite their efforts to replenish his potassium levels, they could not save him, and they wrote, he died comfortably with his family at his bedside, 32 hours after presentation. In 2022,
I only get it like once every 6 months. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Politics, but also gibberish? Wait, what?
American Heart Association spoke with one of the doctors who treated the man, Christopher Newton Chath. Although the FDA encourages moderation when it comes to eating licorice, the doctor notes that it's not actually known how much black licorice is safe. It really hasn't been studied. He also notes that black licorice is sometimes sold as a health supplement, but like the dangers, the potential health benefits also haven't been studied.
There's probably some like weird, there's probably some weird condition that it helps with, and then people are just like, let's expand upon that to everything.
You should just never eat it. I mean, a piece here and a piece there probably aren't going to kill you. And the doctor even admits to having it on occasion himself, although not.
Well, yeah, like, okay. Of the things you could probably have that are gonna kill you, right? Like, if you're gonna have like a piece of black licorice and then you're gonna have like a shot of whiskey, I'm gonna assume the shot of whiskey is probably worse for you. That's maybe I'm wrong, but that would be my assumption. If you're gonna get rid of one, the whiskey's probably the better one to get rid of.
Not usually, because as he tells them, I don't particularly like the taste.
Yeah, fair.
One time when I was in school, I saw a kid give another kid a wedgie. But not just your everyday wedgie. He actually hoisted the kid up off the ground by his underwear elastic. And he was just dangling there in the air. On some level, you have to be in awe of the child to possess such strength to do this. And also at the strength of the underwear to not just completely rip in half. So when I first heard the term atomic wedgie, I assumed that that's what an atomic wedgie was, because, I mean, how much more atomic could a wedgie get? As it turns out, much more. In Wikipedia's article about wedgies, they list 4 wedgie variations. What I witnessed would actually be called a hanging wedgie.
Okay.
Then you have the ripping wedgie, which involves tearing the underwear.
Right.
The Melvin, which is a front wedgie. And then, of course, you have the atomic wedgie, in which the underwear is pulled all the way up and over your head. To me, that does not sound...
What? How fucking strong is your underwear that it can do that?
Possible. And when I was looking for evidence that an atomic wedgie is viable, I came across this Reddit thread. Are atomic wedgies humanely possible?
Humanely?
Now, when you read that title, you're probably thinking the same thing that the top commenter thought.
Humanly?
They're not, in fact, humanely possible. It's pretty cruel to do something like that to someone else. Misspelling aside, a lot of the comments seem to echo my thoughts that an atomic wedgie might not actually be possible.
Right.
But the consensus
Humanly
is
what they
if
meant.
you want to pull it off, the person has to be wearing underwear that's a little too big for them.
Right.
Or also if the underwear is made of particularly stretchy synthetic material. But even then, I'm not too sure. That said, I feel like you used to hear about wedgies more often back in the day than you do now, although possibly that's...
Yeah, because now there's way better ways to bully someone. Like, why would you give someone a wedgie when you can, like... You know, I'm not even going to give people ideas. There are plenty of things you can do to try and ruin someone's life if you're in high school.
I'm just thinking that because I'm like old as shit now and I haven't been in school for decades. I don't know.
Social media unlocks
many
many potentials.
But if wedgies are in fact going extinct, commenter Max Thunder 5 could be onto something. It can be done. 70s and 80s underwear was built different. Could it be that the decline in wedgies has to do with the decline in underwear quality? In any case, older underwear having the strength to withstand an atomic wedgie may have interesting ramifications for the story I'm about to tell, because one of them killed a man by his own son, like some kind of myth of ancient warriors. When I first heard about this story over a decade ago, I assumed it was one of those fake articles from a site like Hustlers.com, or if you remember that era of, they're kind of like satirical websites, but they weren't really satirical, they were just like making fake stories. So I thought this was one of those, but as it turns out, this one is surprisingly sadly real. Not reported by a satirical website, but in fact, Oklahoma's local ABC affiliate. It's December 21st of 2013. Around the holiday season, sometimes things can get a bit tense in some families.
Sure.
And that's what was going on with a 31-year-old former Marine named Brad Davis and his stepfather, 58-year-old Denver St. Clair. Then this is the most a stepfather named Denver St. Clair has ever looked like a stepfather named Denver St. Clair. According to the report, the men were having a couple beers at home.
As you do.
But then all of a sudden, Denver St. Clair starts talking shit about his wife, aka Brad's mother. So at this point, you gotta think, it's the stepfather talking shit to the son about his actual mother. I imagine that he'd been with them a long enough time that he felt comfortable doing that. You know, you get a few beers in you and people just start saying shit. But there's still that boundary there, no matter how comfortable you are in that situation. And later reports revealed that he had in fact filed for a divorce from his mother. So this is obviously an uncomfortable situation.
Right.
It turns into a heated back and forth.
Of all the people you could shit talk your wife to, why would you shit talk about your wife to her son? Like, I get having a few drinks, and like, there's some people that just have no ability to even think the second they have a beer.
Brad, his stepfather, throws the first punch, so he defends himself, culminating in an atomic wedgie. An atomic wedgie is kind of an odd thing to do in the middle of a fight. I mean, you got fists coming at you. You're not thinking, hey, let me turn you around and just like whoop. You're probably thinking, oh, maybe he like did something like that so he could subdue him without actually hurting him. That is not the case. No, you see, before all this, they had a full-on fist fight. And as you might expect, the 31-year-old former Marine did manage to win the fight against his 50-something-year-old stepdad. Denver was knocked unconscious. And it's while he's unconscious that Brad delivers the atomic wedgie. I've never heard of anybody in any context giving a wedgie to an unconscious man before. But I can picture
This guy's a fucking psycho!
Like, yeah, that'll show him. Davis then calls 911, but his stepfather is dead by the time they arrive. When the police get there, they discover that the trailer, and of course it's a trailer, is covered in blood. The kitchen and the living room just splattered. So make no mistake.
So it would have like cut up, like it would have cut him up. That's what happened. Like he bled. Maybe like it like, I don't know, gave him a cut in his ass or something.
This wasn't just a goofy little drunk tussle. They were fighting. They also discovered that this was in fact a proper atomic wedgie. According to the police report, the elastic waistband had been pulled over the man's head such that it left ligature marks around his neck.
Oh, so it would have choked him.
It would be determined that his cause of death was a combination of blunt force trauma and asphyxiation. The wedgie suffocated him to death. Brad Davis would
it would have like, it would have pulled his neck back and like,
bond for first-degree murder. And he would go on to state that he didn't mean to kill Denver. He just wanted to embarrass him. Which seems like...
You want to embarrass him, do you know what you do? Find a Sharpie and draw a dick on his face. Like that... Do that, or like, I don't know, there's many ways you can embarrass someone that don't involve giving him a fucking wedgie. Like, I don't know... Fuck, like... I don't know. Like, find something. You know what? Take his clothes off and, like, put him out on the street. Like, I don't know. There's so many things you could do.
I mean, I don't think anyone sets out to kill a man with a wedgie. But the prosecution alleged that he had actually altered the crime scene. That he took what was actually a straight-up murder and made it look like it was a fight that had a wedgie involved. He had also apparently taken a number of photos of Denver while he was dying. And according to the prosecution, making gurgling sounds, which, you know, would be unmistakable as a man suffocating. And the pictures are the detail that really give me pause here, because you have to wonder then. I mean, yeah, that could be like a drunk guy thing to do, but also could mean he's completely fucking demented.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, this was a point that the judge was also very concerned about. Brad would not accept the charge of first-degree murder, but that following May, he would plead guilty to manslaughter, which would have given him a lighter sentence of just 4 years. And he also issued a written statement. As reported by the Oklahoman, After the fight, out of anger from the fight, with no excuse, I pulled Mr. St. Clair's underwear up. Oh, I'm sorry. Like, I get it's like a really serious thing, but it's like to say that in like a serious, like heartfelt statement. I pulled the underwear up over his. Oh God, I have no good reason to explain this. All I can say is I am so sorry and ashamed of my actions. I truly loved and respected Mr. St. Clair. He was always my friend. I wish I could take back that night. 2 lives were forever changed because 2 grown men lost control. To avoid future trouble, I will walk away from heated situations. I'm now willing to swallow my pride to avoid a physical altercation, he wrote. I will continue to look to the Bible for guidance, because if I had followed the Bible in the first place, I would have left the situation that got me here. It's hard to say whether or not he's being completely honest here, but the statement does at a glance feel genuine to me. I mean, imagine being in that situation if it really is the way he says it is. You got one heated drunk moment that you do something that you, in your mind, was going to be a silly little rib, and then you accidentally kill a family member that you care about. Like, what do you do at that point? Even if you don't go to jail, like, how do you come back from that? But ultimately, we don't have access to all the evidence that the judge saw, and he would agree with the prosecution's claim that Brad had altered the crime scene to make it look more favorable to himself. Brad would be sentenced to 30 years in prison for killing a man.
Jeez, okay, yeah. Okay.
Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks to Shoot the Five for providing the music for this episode. If you like this video, check out my video about a guy who claimed to give parasites to people on purpose. I'm out.
Okay. That was a fun one. Well, I don't know if fun's the word I'd use for that. It was a 1. Yeah, I wasn't sure where that was gonna go. Fucking hell, that was a little dark. Fuck, okay. Does anyone have a bit of a lighter one we can go with, maybe?